participating.
No. This is important. So thank you for accommodating Ryan and my schedule.
And we're waiting for Louis.
He's
Louis
going to be
is-
late, I think.
Yes, he's going to be late.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll get started then.
Okay.
Aloha kako. I would like to call today's Public Land Trust Working Group meeting to order. Let the record reflect that it is Tuesday, July 9, 2024, and the time is 2:00. We are recording this remote meeting held by Interactive Conference Technology. The members present in today's meeting are Sherry Broder, Don Chang, Ryan Kanakaole, and myself, Hulu Lindsay. Administrative and technical support are provided by Everett Ota, Amber Kalua, Kehau Pu'u, and Kelsey Wade. First on our agenda is the approval of meeting summary. Amber, is anyone signed up to speak on this item?
No, there is not.
Can I get a motion to approve the meeting summary for March 21st, 2024?
So moved.
I second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion, members? If none, roll call vote. Amber?
Sherry Broder,
Aye.
Don Chang,
Aye.
Berkeley Galutaria is excused. Ryan Kanakaole,
Aye.
Hulu Lindsay,
Aye.
and Louis Soliveria is excused. We have 4 yes votes. Motion passes.
Okay. Moving on to item 3, issues and status of various inventories. Sherry.
Okay. First, I'd like to thank Dawn for her willingness to allow the person who's in charge of upgrading the PLTIS to have a meetings with us. And we think that the first meeting was very fruitful. And we felt like he was, trying to listen to us, and that his goal was to make it as good as possible within the parameters that he's working. So mahalo nui loa to you and
Sherry,
DLI.
did he make some unnecessary commitments on our behalf?
Of course he did.
I think that his goal was the exact same as the whole department, which is to make the PLTIS as good as it can be within the
Okay.
parameters that he's working with.
Okay.
How's that
Very
sound?
good. Very good. Very
All
good.
right.
Thank you.
Okay. So there's that. And we have more information on the Kipuka database, which is the OHA database, which is a more historical database and traces the lands from the time of the Mahele. Only 2 islands are completed, which is Kauai and Molokai, completely completed. But OHA's been trying to continue its work with its database, which is different than PLTIS. Well, for one thing, it's not self-reporting like PLTIS. It's, OHA's doing the original research and work itself. And we're going to give Chris Wong a presentation on the OHA database. It seems to me, but of course I'm ignorant, that they're quite different. So I don't know if there can be any overlap, but it may be that there are aspects that could be used from Kipuka or that could be used. I doubt it, but we're going to make the effort to make a presentation to Chris Wong to see what he thinks. So that's going to be later this week. Okay.
Oh, and I'm wondering, maybe since you've completed 2 islands, we've always talked about somewhat like an independent assessment, and maybe based upon your Kipuka and our PLTIS, having a third party look at the 2, at least with respect to Kauai and Molokai. Are there differences? and that may help us fill in the gaps. So just think about that, if that's a
Okay.
possibility.
You know what we'll do? We will bring that question up at the meeting this week with Chris and Kala. I don't, I always want to hire somebody who really knows what they're talking about. So I can't possibly address what you've just said. So we'll bring that question up, and I like it because you've narrowed it, that's a good idea, narrow it down to the two islands.
Compare
that-
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that we have done. But you've made me think of another idea, which might be, I mean, we could at least, perhaps you could refer people from your website, from your PLTS, you could make a reference to the Kipuka as another database available, should people want to access it, and you could say that, verify the authenticity or whatever of it. But yeah, so maybe that would be a way of kind of expanding the database to at least have the two linked that way, if it as a minimum, which would be pretty easy. So we'll bring that up when we talk to Chris too.
Okay.
Does ever have a concern? He knows more than I do.
No problem. But no, thanks. Just maybe build on what Sherry's was, reporting back. The PLTIS upgrades, I think, we got an update on the timeline, that your department is looking at, right, to try to put out a RFP for those. I think it's maybe we have a little bit more time to I think have provided that feedback to Chris on those the things that we would like to see from the improvements. Again, he didn't commit to incorporating any of those, but I think he's taking them under consideration, including the idea of some version control or tracking of the information that's coming into the system. So again, we can have that as something to refer back to, should there be discrepancies, right, from one year's reporting to the next. That was a major issue, I think, that we had looked at in prior meetings of this working group. So, I think he was receptive to that, and seeing it as an area that might be able to be looked at by the contractor, the consultant that would come on to do those system improvements. But I think we also got a lot of good information shared from his perspective to see, what the monies were going to be going towards, the type of improvements that were really needed, to try to set that system up for a longer term use, right? And not have to make these constant upgrades or just kind of add on modifications. So it was very helpful to hear, the types of upgrades that he had planned. But it also, I think, kind of shed light on the idea that it's not going to be probably involving a revisiting of that underlying data, which is maybe still an area of some interest or concern for OHA, to make sure that that baseline data is good. But we also recognize the limitations and what that funding can really stretch across. So it was just good to understand what those were.
You're muted.
You're muted, Dan.
No, I appreciate that, Everett. And maybe this is part of the two-step maybe process that, to the extent that DLNR can make any adjustments to our contract to address some of the concerns, that can help, maybe improve or address some of OHA's concerns. And then two, the second phase may be this compare and contrast, because your Kipuka is, as you say, it's probably much more, it's not
Detailed.
how did Sherry, you say
It's more
self-report.
historical.
Yeah.
It's more historical too. So
Okay.
it's two things. It's no self-reporting.
Yeah.
It's research and it's historical, whereas yours is, well, it's historical to the extent that the lands are identified, 5A, ceded lands, executive order, wherever the
right,
source of the lands are, but it doesn't go back to explain anything. I mean, that's all it says, like executive order
Yeah.
XXX. So
Yeah, and maybe if I could build on that a little bit more as well. The Kipuka database it does have, a number of different GIS layers or, information that's part of that system. And it includes some of the original disposition the documents that were initial awards of these various parcels. And the work that was done, to inventory Kauai and Molokai is part of a broader ceded lands project. And I'm not actually sure how much of that has been fully incorporated into what's displayed on Kipuka. So it might not be in as it currently sits, in a way that's kind of capable of being compared one to the other. And it's also not, and it really also just goes up. OHA's research work on land tenure really goes up only to statehood, and it's not anything that's, certainly doesn't show any of the current dispositions of those lands. And anything following statehood should have, those lands have maybe changed hands or been, EO to one agency or another. So just kind of they're kind of covering similar topic areas, but the information that's part of those systems definitely are different and cover some different periods in time as well.
But maybe there's some opportunities because both systems are using GIS.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some opportunities. And
Mhm.
I'm glad our new
Mhm.
COO is here because one of the issues for OHA is that that OHA hasn't been able to hire a GIS person yet. So if that could be a priority, I think that would really be helpful. Because now is a really important time when we're trying to talk to DLNR about their upgrade for their system. Okay, so then, Dawn, or maybe should I call you director or chair?
Dawn is okay. Dawn is okay.
It's just okay, or
No,
I don't
just,
want to.
yeah, no, Dawn is okay.
Well, at least I'm not
We've
calling
known
you
each other a long
auntie.
time.
At least I'm
Yeah,
calling
just
you
don't be calling me auntie or don't be calling me kupuna. But
All right,
Dawn is
okay.
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 Hi.
Aloha.
Hi, Louis.
Oh,
But see, it's better because we have director and director.
Oh, well,
Then you would
usually I
know
go,
how to-
no, that's okay. For me, it's either chair or Dawn, one of those. But Dawn
All
is
right.
okay. Dawn is okay.
All right, all
Dawn
right.
is-
Okay, well, thank you. I circulated an outline which was put into the materials for today. So I did an outline of the report to the legislature.
Hmm.
And one of the things that is in the outline is the list of inventories that so far. I went back to 1961. There's an inventory from then, and then SLIMS, and then Kipuka PLTIS. And if you wouldn't mind, I would ask that you ask people in land division if they know of any other inventories other than the ones that I've listed.
Okay.
Okay. Because I want to be able to show, like there are a lot of inventories that have been done. Okay, they might not be perfection on any of them, but still, I think it would be important I think it's important for our report to the legislature to show that, so people have the facts and information.
Okay.
We kind of uncovered the university thingy too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The, where we granted 1.5 million.
Yes. Okay. Okay. One other thing we looked into was about 20 years ago, OHA made a grant to the Center for Hawaiian Studies. Lily Kamaliiva was the dean at the time, and the grant was $1.5 million. And it was for several things, but that included developing a course on doing inventories. And having students develop inventories and other things. So we I just wanted to know, I've been trying to figure out, make sure I covered all the lists in my list of every inventory that has been done. Uh, uh, so,
And did she
anyways,
complete
I
that?
asked the chair of OHA to write a letter to the dean Osorio
Osorio.
now,
Okay,
so that we could find out, like, if they did do a course,
Yeah,
can we get the
okay.
materials? If I
Yeah.
understand that students did do papers on inventories, but then the university took the position that those were proprietary. The students work and wouldn't turn them over at a board meeting, so I don't know what ended up, how that all ended up happening. But anyways, we're waiting for a report from the center on exactly what happened, and if there are any materials, I mean, that would be, if there are any teaching materials, that would be good.
Have you
So-
spoken to Lily Kala? I'm so sorry, I'm just interrupting.
No,
Okay.
I was just gonna say that John Osorio called Lily Kala and had an in-depth conversation.
Uh-huh.
In turn, Lily Kala called Kalehanis, who works for us.
Oh,
So it kind of went around a whole
Okay.
circle, trying to figure out
Yeah.
what the 1.5 million helped us with.
Yeah,
So,
So we're still waiting to hear. We were told that the dean was going to respond to your letter.
But it sounds like there would be an actual course curriculum, it seems like.
Well, the basis of my information was a newspaper report, a press release from the University of Hawaii at the time. So I just was trying to find out if further what happened. So
interesting.
I can't admit or deny because I don't have any information, but I'd be happy to circulate the press release.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, okay.
My apologies for being late, Chair, and everybody. So, veto deadline day.
you wasn't just having a long lunch.
It was a long lunch with some heavy conversations.
I wrote that
Yeah, I
down. I'm
suspected
ready.
that.
That's to really be a lawyer at heart.
Hit it right on the nose.
Yeah.
So, do you have further on the report that you're writing?
Well, I did circulate the outline, and if everybody could take a look at it, I'd appreciate it. Here's one for you. John, if you could take a look at it, because there's a lot of work still to be done on it. But before I did the work, I wanted to find out if anybody was gonna cross out stuff. That's what I'm
Do you
hoping
have an
for.
extra copy? Thanks.
Can you,
You have one?
Sherry, what page is it on the materials? Because
All right, Amber, are you here? Can she put it up?
I
Can you put
share.
it up, Amber? Did my
Oh.
outline?
or show me where it, because I'm looking at
Here it is. Here it
Oh,
is.
okay, I
okay.
didn't see that in the
Okay, I
material.
said confidential, not for distribution, but I
Oh,
know
I
that
see.
it's not
Okay.
actually confidential, but I just wanted to underline that it's not for distribution because it is really still just a draft.
Okay.
Okay, so executive summary, I'll just walk you through it, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so introduction, all right. I'm going to include a summary of OHA's positions on its pro rata shares and inventories, okay? Because, for instance, the last demand that was in black and white that OHA did was after the N&K report of the
2016.
2016.
Mhm.
And at that time, OHA's demand was
79.
78.9 million. At that time, that's already 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And then also the back pay due was 638 million. So I thought I mean, unless you and Lewis and Ryan are going to agree, I thought that you could accept what we said for what OHA's last demand was, and we at least put it up front in the report, unless you can agree. And I didn't know if you wanted to take it back to the governor talk to him first or what? I mean, those figures have to be updated.
Mm.
But based on the prior demand, which was based on the best report we have, which was the 2016 report.
I know that I think the state team would like to at least debrief the governor on a status update of where we
Okay.
are. So I think that
Okay.
would be helpful to have that.
Okay,
And I guess I would just ask, part of your executive summary, that there be a specific reference to the act that we were established and what are,
yeah,
That's
that's
what
it,
they
that's in the,
introduced.
yeah, thank you.
yeah, okay, that's the
That's the
introduction. Okay.
introduction, yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah, but yes, definitely.
okay.
Okay, then, I'm going to repeat what you've heard all of these things before, I think, and are probably pretty well aware of them, but, so one is the, constitutional basis of vote, because this is going to the legislature, so some of these things are repeated just even from the act that created this group. It's in the legislation. Okay, then I wanted to include the public land trust status of the submerged lands. And the reason for that is, although you and Lewis are fully aware of the public land trust status of submerged lands, there's plenty of people that at the legislature who might not be. So I did want to include that. This is just the outline, so we're certainly going to have another opportunity to review. Okay, it's just and it's only a draft outline. Then, okay, I was going to go over the work performed, the number of meetings we've had. The requests that we made to the legislature to get more funding so that we could, actually dig in and come to some conclusions. Okay, then I don't know, other than the number of meetings and the bill that we introduced, if there's anything you want to have included. So if there is, just email Amber with any
Okay,
comments that you have.
Okay. And Amber, can you email this to us? Then we can make some comments directly on it.
Yes, it should be in your folks' email right now.
Oh.
Because I received the document after the 2 business days, I couldn't distribute until the meeting.
All right, thank you so
Yeah.
much, Amber.
But it should be there. If it's not, I can resend it.
Okay, I'll look for it.
Okay, so then I did the list of state inventories, which include the PLTIS, Kipuka database. I have a short summary on that. Okay, so these are the 2 current ones. All right. Then there's earlier inventory related databases, which is SLIMS and the 1961 state land inventory. So that's why I was trying to find out more from the Center for Hawaiian Studies, if they found out anything that should be included in the report. And that's why I asked you, Don, if you wouldn't mind asking your staff and the land division if they know of any other inventories.
I can ask.
Okay, I did look at Professor McKenzie's book, and this was basically what I've got so far. Okay, so list of reports on PLT income and proceeds. I guess this is part of our work that we did reviewing all of this stuff. Okay, so then most recent is the OHA's 2016 NNK report and the DLNR report to the 2024 legislature on pro rata share. Okay, earlier reports. Okay, there's the list of all these earlier reports, including reports by the legislative auditor, Anyway, so there's a long list there, and number 8 is all the reports that DLNR has submitted to the legislature. I just included them as one report because they're all the same thing, based on the same principles, basically.
Hmm.
But if you want me to list every single one, I can change that way of doing it.
I mean, are you gonna make these part of the report, or are you attaching them as appendices?
Definitely not making it part of the report. I mean,
Yeah.
the outline itself is already 6 pages, which is probably
know.
too long for the report, so, but yeah, you think it's all gotta be appendices, you're probably right,
Yeah,
yeah. I don't want to encourage anybody to spend any more time on it, but look at what I did, but okay. All right, then the pro rata share established legal principles and rules. Okay, well, we talked about this at the first meeting. And I think it's absolutely accurate to say that it's always been based on the gross. All right, there may have been talk by other people, such as Senator De La Cruz, at one time, but he didn't follow through on it, on making it net. So, since 1980, the assumption has always been that it's based on the gross. Okay, so I've brought up Act 304 many times, the 1990 session laws of Hawaii. And the reason I keep bringing it up is because it worked fine before the Airport Forgiveness Act, and everybody was fine with it. It was a deal between the state and OHA. And the state does still use parts of Act 304, which is particularly the definitions of sovereign and proprietary revenue. And so since OHA only gets 20% of proprietary revenue and none of the sovereign revenue, that was a big deal. And that was really something that the state really wanted. So I just think that Act 304 is a really good model. And it's something that should be reenacted. Okay, so on that front, next page, page 4. Okay, I go over the Judge Healy decision and the 4 aspects that he did rule that OHA was entitled to pro rata share on, which included the airport revenues, Waikiki duty-free receipts, the Hilo Hospital patient services revenues, receipts from Hawaii Housing Authority, and interest earned on withheld revenues. So when the court, okay, so then after the Forgiveness Act, the Hawaii number 2 decided their case, they did find that the award of airport revenues to OHA was obligated under Act 304, and that again is one of the reasons that the OHA trustees at the time entered into the deal for Act 304, thinking that the airport revenues were going to be included. So then you'll have a chance to review closely all the details when it's done. Okay, so I'm not going to finish the report without your approval of the report as a report. And if there's some disagreements, we can have some minority views, but please don't do that because I don't think I can take too much more of this. Okay, state continues to use the sovereign propriety definitions and other aspects. All right, so state payments are past due for OHA's pro rata share. Okay, the point of this is to show that the state has repeatedly paid for OHA's past due, not from the agencies, but from the general fund.
Right.
Yeah, so this, and the state has paid for past due airport revenues, and even when the Airport Forgiveness Act was passed, the reason it was called the Forgiveness Act is because the feds forgave the state for the revenues from the airports that it did pay OHA. So I think there's a recognition that OHA is owed that. And of course, there's Senator Inouye's statements at the time. And there's some language in the Airport Forgiveness Act indicating that the state should be paying the airport revenues. All right, okay, then another option besides general funds is land. And that's what happened in the Kaka'ako settlement, is the state utilized land to pay OHA for past due. And I think, and I can't speak for the BOT, but I certainly think that's a possible avenue to explore. And even in 2022, the legislature did allocate a one-time payment of 64 million to OHA for past due amounts. So that's from the general funds too. That's not from the agencies.
Well,
All right,
The 64 million is
Yes.
the difference between 21.5 and 15.1
Yes.
times the 10 years.
Yeah.
And then we came out with that.
right, but that's a past due.
Yeah.
So just that alone, but it didn't come from the agencies. The 64 million isn't coming from the agencies.
No.
It's coming from the general funds.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, but thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
I think that's a good, I mean, it, to me, I guess it's obvious.
So
but I
it's
think
like-
that's good, yeah,
It's like we got 21.5 million from 2012.
okay. All right, okay, you don't have to agree or disagree with OHA's claims of unfair treatment, but if you do want to agree, that would be great. That would be great. Okay, Kakako Makai. OHA has been prohibited from developing its lands there. You know, that was supposed to be the deal. OHA was owed 200 million. I mean, recent assessments show that it's only worth 91 million. And of course, just drive on down there, take a look. They're still building towers down there. I don't know how many there's going to be at the end of the day. But OHA can't build it. OHA's not being allowed to build any. So it's an unfairness in the settlement because the deal was worth $100 million less than what OHA was awarded. And the idea behind it was to give OHA economic determination, let it make its own money.
Great.
All right, okay, leases on PLT lands where no charges are assessed or less than fair market value is assessed. Some examples include telescope time, technology patents, foreign investments, etc. Leases for $1 per year or less than fair market value. I didn't include anything about the charities, but I will add that, Dawn. Okay. I guess, okay, I know I didn't include it because I was deferring to your view that you do that. Well, for the canoes, you do that because you're required statutorily to do that. And otherwise, you're trying to help the community. So I would have to hear from the other OHA members as to whether or not you want the charities included as unfair treatment or not. So get back to me on that.
Mhm.
Okay, some agencies aren't reporting the PLT income and proceeds. Okay, that DLNR is, but some agencies aren't. Okay, some state agencies have moved building sites or activities from PLT lands to non-PLT lands. I guess to avoid paying a pro rata share to OHA. Okay, the last one, the legislature changed the law after Judge Healy's ruling so that there is no more interest assessed on OHA's past due amounts. The state's permitted environmental pollution and the destruction of sacred lands with cultural and spiritual significance. And we know that you're trying, Dawn, to provide some leadership in that area, but you know, nonetheless, I think that lands that could potentially have been income producing have been destroyed and can't even be used at all. Lands transferred out of the PLT from the 5F lands to 5A right before statehood. Okay, well, that includes Sand Island, which of course is a big revenue producer. So, anyways, okay.
Don, any questions? Any concerns?
Well, you can
Any
take your
concerns,
time.
any questions? Well, you know what I'd like to do? So
Sure.
thank you. I really appreciate, Sherry, that you took the time to do this. I think so is this being viewed as this is the report from the PLT working group? Is there, are you looking for consensus from the state from the 3 state representatives to agree with OHA's, with your, because what do you conclude? Are you concluding based upon your report that, OHA is owed how do I address this? A specific amount that OHA is owed? I mean,
Are you asking me, what am I?
or what, I mean,
Okay, I am concluding that, but what can this group do? Okay, so
yeah,
this is why I have characterized it as OHA's position.
okay.
Okay. All right, I think that to the extent you can agree, that would be great.
Yeah,
But I think you can agree that it is OHA's position, right?
okay.
That's not the state's position, but it's
Right.
OHA's position.
And maybe
Okay.
the state should come up with their own position.
Yeah,
And the
no,
reason-
okay.
The reason that Sherry did this possible outline of a final report from our committee, we've been going on this for almost 2 years. And we can go for another 10 years. And I think that we need to come to a consensus of what we're willing to agree on and what we're willing not to agree on.
Yeah.
And then present this report to the legislature, see what they're gonna do about it. And if they do nothing, then that's up to OHA to do something.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
I mean, but we cannot keep going around and around. That's why I was telling Sherry, I said, I feel like we're going around the mulberry bush. Every single meeting, we kind of recapping and really we're not getting anywhere.
No, and I would agree with you, Chair. I guess for me, the challenge that I have with this is that I look at the Act 226, our specific statutory responsibilities. 1, account for all ceded lands and public trust inventory. I think we have spent a lot of our time questioning the department's PLTIS because that is the basis upon which we say there's an inventory. That's what we say, the state, at least from DLNR, that's what we say is the accounting of all ceded lands, public trust inventory. OHA disagrees with that. So to me, there should be, in my view, it's, okay, this is the state's position on the inventory, and OHA's position is that it's not accurate. Therefore, legislature, we would like additional funds to do an audit of the inventory. Number 2, account for all income and proceeds from the public land trust. In my view, the question is, OHA obviously disagrees with the various responses by some of the departments. And so I thought what we were going to do was to seek guidance from the legislature to say, Ledge, you need to help us so that we're comparing apples and apples. That you direct the state agencies, or maybe it's the governor, or so, direct the state agencies to make an accurate accounting of the inventory. I mean, and in all due respect, Sherry, I haven't read, I haven't had time to digest the report, but it seems to conclude because I would agree that we have spent a lot of our time questioning the inventory, a lot of our time questioning the responses by the state agencies, that I thought we were getting to the point of looking for guidance from the legislature. Some of these are policy decisions that the ledge has to do. If each of the departments are are accounting, their revenues based upon a different definition, then I think that would be helpful guidance by the ledge. Well, tell us, what should we be looking at Act 304 as guidance? Should we be looking at coming up with specific definitions? But and again, it appears just from the cursory review that we've had of the draft report, there's a conclusion that this group has reached that OHA has not received, well, the inventory is not correct, and OHA has not received all of its income. I don't know that. I mean, I guess that's where I'm at. So what I'd like to do is to take the outline and then talk to both the Lewis and Ryan about providing a response. And it may be there's two, you know, there's a, I don't want to say a minority and a majority report, but there is, and maybe that becomes a discussion for the group here. What can we agree on and what we can't agree on? But I'm a little uncomfortable with the report as it's being drafted, but I do respect that Sherry took the instructions and, you know, at least she had the initiative to do that. So I'm mahalo for her for doing that. But I'd like some time to look over the report with the state representatives and then talk to the governor and probably weigh in the attorney general on this, because I think some of these are legal issues, is how we interpret this, and then come back to the working group about, okay, we've had an opportunity to review the draft report. These are things that we can agree on, and these are things that we cannot agree on, and then we see where we go from there. I'm just not prepared to fully address all of the points in the draft report. I don't know, Lewis and Ryan, if you have any comments. I don't want to just talk on behalf of, you know, you two also represent the state.
I appreciate Chair Chang's position, and I do agree that we have been having this discussion and in a kind of roundabout way. I think, tacitly come to this conclusion that we agree that there needs to be a review of the inventory.
Yeah.
There's questions around the inventory, and we also agree that we need some resources in order to do an appropriate level of audit and reconciliation, so that we can agree that this will become essentially this what do we want to be the system of record going forward, and that we can all agree on, and then that would be the basis for which to determine revenue. And then so two prong, the inventory and then the calculation of revenue. And then even the discussion that we've been having around standardizing how departments or how agencies would report revenue.
That's important
That's
too.
another issue too as well. So I think that's where I agree with Chair Chang, that legislative guidance around that, making it very clear so that departments know exactly how to report certain things I would feel comfortable, like, definitely from that perspective as a finding of this particular group.
Well, I think one of the departments that we have a huge difference in is the University of Hawaii. I mean, don't tell me those telescopes up Mauna Kea not making tons of money. Where's that money going? Does the university have the kind of authority to set it aside to their foundation? That's circumventing the law. They're taking our 20% with it.
I don't know enough.
You don't want to say the word agree, but I know you agree.
I don't know enough about, I mean, UH is a very special animal in terms of the way that they handle their finances with their autonomy. But it's definitely something that I would
look into. Yeah.
Well, I think that, you know, we tried to get funding from the legislature, which we didn't get. And I think that one of our recommendations should be to get the funding to do those two reports. But I did try to show due respect to the state and to the state representatives. As you see, I say summary of OHA's positions on its pro rata share. So I think a lot of work has been done by this committee, and I didn't expect Although maybe the governor will agree and you'll come back at the next meeting and say he does agree. I mean, he might, this was John Hayes' plan. So, it's possible that he would agree, but but I think that from OHA's point of view, it's really important to get it all in because we don't know if there'll be another working group, and we don't want to give a wrong impression too that just hiring these independent third parties is going to be sufficient. I think it's important for OHA to lay its cards on the table, which it's done before. We're not saying anything new. This has been all said and done before. So I don't think anything is new, but I do think that you should not worry because I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
No, I appreciate that.
I'm willing to accept that it may not be that you can agree. You might not be in the position to agree. The governor might not have enough time. This might not be a priority or whatever, okay? So, but I think that the work's been done and it's been all collected into one place now. And as we've been talking about the inventories and the reports on the accountings that have been done and everything. So put it all together so we show that all this work's been done, and we can move, let's get moving already. So I would like to see us get the report done before the next election
Ryan?
in November. So I'd like to see us finish this and submit it to the legislature so we don't then have different people, different things, different whatevers. And then we can be done. You won't have to listen to me anymore. Director
Sherry.
John.
I'm anticipating
up,
we're gonna be talking longer, but Ryan, your hand is up. You want a thought you want to add to this?
And so this report is going to be the final report of the working group?
Yes.
Because the legislation only asks for one report. And so, okay.
So the response by, let's say, the state side is important so we can discuss it and see what we're willing to, all 6 of us agree on. And what do we have to work on? Maybe we have to say the state believes this and OHA believes that, and let, when the number of years that I went before the legislature to ask our fair amount of ceded lands revenue, the constant question was, do you have an inventory to determine what you're due? And when you answer that no, then that's the end of the question. That's why we are like this year to year. Well, we got to come up with a formula, some way. Now, global have been suggested by the Ways and Means chair, and that's not ever possible. That's illegal for us to make decisions for the future of Hawaii. We cannot accept a global settlement for our keiki. They're going to have their chance to want their lands revenues, and we need to give them that chance. So that's, global settlement is not on the table.
And I appreciate that, Chair Lindsay. I mean, I think it's really important for us to know. I mean, there are certain things that they're sort of like non-negotiable.
Yes.
And so if that is the position, that's important for us to know.
Yeah.
I think for me, some of the, just hearing our discussions, I think one of the challenges that we may have that's different between OHA and in particular the DLNR and even the UH, it is, as I understand, Chapter 10, OHA is entitled to revenue. Some of the questions you're asking is about management. So for example, DLNR, we do grant gratis to nonprofits because we believe that is it's in the public interest. So that's our mission. University of Hawaii, likewise, how they manage, I mean, that's their kuleana, but revenues may be different based upon how the departments manage their lands consistent with their mission. So again, I think that there's a disconnect in some instances between OHA thinking that the state is not generating the best and the highest and best use of the
Revenues.
ceded lands. And for us, for DLNR in particular, again, our public, I mean, we don't generate a lot of revenue because we get general funded mostly, but we are generating more revenue now, like with state parks. But our mission is to preserve and protect the resources, we're not to make commercial, we're not generating revenue. So I think some of this is a management difference. OHA may disagree with the way that the state agencies are managing their ceded lands trusts, but we see it as it is consistent with our mission. But you may see it as, well, you're not generating maximum use of revenue that you could be. So I think that to me, that's another issue that's a legislative question versus because that's, from a policy standpoint, we look at what's our mission. So again, just, some of the points that have come up even today about gratis nonprofits and UH. I think that goes back to how the different state agencies manage their lands. Some are not always there to generate revenue, but OHA does. And so I do understand there's a difference of how we get to the, how the ultimate is how are we reporting our revenues? And you may see that we're not reporting enough, but that our revenues, the way that we look at it, it is what it is. And it's based upon our management decisions. So that is something I think that we may have a difference of opinion on, which results in different calculations of revenue. I only speak for DLNR on that one. Ryan, sorry, your hand is up. Did you want to say? Sorry.
Well, if this is would be the final report, my question is, will the legislature be satisfied that we've worked towards the three purposes of this working group? And for me, I don't think that we hit the mark. That's the case. There is no accounting of city lands. There's no accounting of income and proceeds, and therefore there is no determination of the pro rata share. And I think that's what, regardless of who submits the report, whether it's two, whether it's one, that's going to be, in my view, the conclusion of the legislature.
For the final report, this committee is supposed to be making a recommendation to the legislature as to how to solve this problem we've had all this year. That's why the act was created. So, we might consider how we're going to do that.
And to Ryan's point,
Recommendation, at least from my reading of the act, is the determination of the pro rata share, how that is created, whether it be through recreating 304 or otherwise. But that's really what the recommendation is, and I don't think that this final report is going to accomplish that. Particularly because, at least from my recollection on the legislative side, when before this act was being made, there was question, and it was prompted by OHA's advocacy on the need for like a clear inventory or like a agreed upon inventory, as well as like the claims of the inconsistencies on the reporting. And so this was the legislature's solution okay, then we're gonna have executive side and OHA come together and make the final determination on inventory and count. So we didn't hit 1 and 2. And I think the agreement between all of us is that we need to bring other people in. Number 3, in that section 3 that Amber brought up, that would be encapsulated in their final report, or at least that's what the recommendation would be. And I don't think we even get there. You know, I see that there's, you know, we don't want to keep coming back to the table. But I don't think that the work is done until numbers 1 and 2 are hit, which would require funding and actually like a third party to go in and do the accounting. And then we can reconvene as a working group, because there is no sunset of this work.
There is no sunset of the working group, right?
There's no funding.
Yeah, there's no sunset. And so, and no sunset and no funding, right?
Right.
Two no's. But I think the intention, I think what Ryan is trying to say, and which I agree with, is that we know that there's some work that needs to be done for the first 2 items, which is the account for, right? Account for land, account for revenue. And then number 3, which is the determination of the 20%. But I mean, you can't really do number 3 without doing number 1 and 2. So
Well, maybe we could call this an interim report, but I think we should submit something to the legislature for the session coming up. And let's face it, it sees as the working group with the cooperation of any department or agency. We got no cooperation from the agencies and departments. So I think that interfered with our work. So, you know, maybe we need legislation that requires the agencies to respond to the working group. But I think we should at least do an interim report with a recommendation for the funding,
Mhm.
definitely, that we
Okay,
already
that's good.
tried to get. But I mean, when we went in for the funding, which was critical, I think, to be able to complete our work, we didn't really get support for it.
And I agree. I think that that should be done, because it needs to be communicated to the legislature that more than just an unfunded mandate needs to be had in order to actually to accomplish the work that they wanted.
Yep. Okay, so the only thing is, I mean, I would like to do a full-on interim report, which includes all these things that I brought up, including Act 304, OHA's prior demands and everything, because you know, I think that OHA, the amount of money that goes to OHA is really not fair and inadequate. I mean, all the state lands, 98%, 99%. Are ceded lands, the former lands of the Hawaiian Kingdom. And what does OHA get? I mean, what's the state budget? 15 billion? Is that the yearly budget? 19 billion is the yearly budget. So OHA's share of the budget at 21 million is 0.0001%. So I really think that Hawaiians are getting such a short end of the whole thing, and that it's just not right. I feel it's just not right. And I think that, you know, I know there's a lot of other demands for fairness and taking care of the community and things like that. And I don't think OHA is saying anything negative about those things, except for things where it's been set up in a way so that OHA is not getting its fair share and the money's being siphoned off. But you know, I think a lot of work's been done and a lot of things have been considered. And I think if we're just going to do it as an interim report, it should be done now, and that can include, you know, that one thing we all agreed on was that we need funding to do more, but I don't want it to end up, you know, just the same old, like, because we don't have all the details, we don't have every T crossed and every I dotted, that OHA gets nothing and still is at this 0.0001% of the state budget.
I mean, the recommendation, I know we went in like as a budgetary ask in the past, right? But
Yeah.
with a recommendation along with an interim report, I believe has more gravitas when it comes to actually, because you're
Yeah.
filing it with the legislature
Yeah,
as an official, like interim report and saying these are the requirements based upon what you told
Us to
to
do.
do.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay, well,
think
maybe you can, oh,
interim report is,
okay,
and something that, maybe, Dawn wants to,
Yeah.
include the state side as to,
Yeah.
what they see, so that the legislature can see the differences between the two sides
Right.
in this interim report.
Okay.
And
No.
how do we bring it together to one agreement?
I think it would be good if you folks don't mind bringing it to the governor, because I do see this governor as a person who does care about Hawaiian people and about their place in in society here in Hawaii. So not that I'm saying he's going to say anything one way or the other, but if it would be possible to apprise him of
Of the work that that. group
the work
did.
did and then OHA's position.
Dawn, you
Okay.
have something to say?
Yeah, no, so what I'd like to do is if you give the state, before the next meeting, we'll try over the next 2 to 3 weeks to come up with an outline of a draft.
Okay,
Our section of the interim report, what we think, we would recommend. We will also try to have a meeting with the governor to update him on the status of our working group's efforts and the fact that that we're proposing to submit an interim report that may have, at this point in time, it may reflect two different positions, both the state's position as well as OHA's position. But our intention is to submit an interim report to the legislature, and we can show him at least where we are and what we've done to the state. But if you can give us at least the next 30 days to work on an outline on what we would include in the state's position of an interim report, and then we can discuss the two reports together. Because
okay.
I think, in my view, I think the Act 1, 2, and 3, because I would agree with you, Chair Lindsay, and I think this is what the legislature was looking at us to do, is that if there's a fundamental agreement on how we calculate 1 and 2, and I don't think we do have an agreement on that. I think both OHA and the state, we have differences. While we may think the ceded lands, the public land trust inventory is complete, you may disagree. So we need funds to audit that. Similarly, how we do an accounting of income and proceeds, that's been varied. Each agency does have a different interpretation. So it may be the recommendation that we standardize that. But I
Mhm.
think if we can all get an agreement on 1 and 2, then I think, Chair Lindsay, 3, which can then be the calculation of the 20%, it shouldn't necessarily require a global settlement, but this becomes the basis upon which we calculate what OHA is entitled to. But so
Right.
long as 1 and 2 is firm and pa'a and reflects an agreement by the two sides, I think then step 3 should be something that we're able to do every year, that OHA gets what they're entitled to. I mean, I understand the feeling that it's not fair, but I think we have to explain why it's not fair or why we have to do something differently. I think it's got to be demonstrable to the legislature, and what can the legislature do to provide adequate guidance to ensure the fairness. And some of the issues related to fairness, kaka'ako that may be independent from the ceded lands revenue. That was for past due. So I think if we can find a way to come to an agreement on how do we get to 1 and 2, I think the 3 should naturally flow. but I don't think we have an agreement on 1 and 2. That to me is where we are at right now.
Mhm.
I'm not ready to jump to the conclusion that we all agree that OHA is entitled to more. That may be the case, that may be the result, but I don't think we've fully completed steps 1 and 2. We've gone round and round, that's for sure. So let us, if you wouldn't mind giving us a month, if we can try to do it sooner than that, we will try to do that, but try to
Okay.
get you an outline of the state's position.
Okay,
Okay, I'd like to offer that I would be more than happy to make a presentation either to the AG and Lopez or to the governor to present OHA's position.
Yeah.
So,
And that may be the result of this, and I would say it may be the entire working group comes and makes a presentation too, because I think Chair Lindsay, you do carry some, there is deference given to the chair of OHA, but let us first brief the governor and the AG. Let us first come up with an outline of the state's position that we can discuss with the governor and the AG. And then what may happen after that is we agree to do a joint presentation to the governor and the AG. And it might be even a preliminary review by key legislative leadership. And they can tell us, you guys haven't done your job, or, okay, prepare this, proceed forward with the interim report. But I think we can maybe get some preliminary guidance from that group as well.
Ryan?
Yeah, so may I ask a favor of Amber? Can you please send me a compilation of all the minutes for the working group? Because I sense that I will be doing some drafting.
Amber, you heard him?
Yes.
she could
We have
send it to
meeting
all of us.
summaries, but are you asking for like a transcript?
Either or. If you don't have transcripts, that's fine. Don't create. Whatever you have, the approved meeting minutes and summaries is fine.
Summaries.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll send you the approved summaries and the videos. And then
Okay.
if we have the transcripts, the Zoom transcripts are kind of but
Yeah.
it might be helpful.
Okay.
You might find it helpful. So I'll send you what we have.
That's what happens when you're older, when me and Louis are older than Ryan.
Yes,
And Ryan writes better than us anyway.
that's right.
Thank you.
But
Louis?
Chair, and I think speaking as a member, yes, there's an OHA position, yes, and there may be a state position. But I don't necessarily believe that they're contradictory positions. I think we all want to get to the same conclusion, and that is to resolve the issue of accounting and recognizing what the revenue is. It's just, it's like, have we gotten there yet? That's where I think we're.
Well, I think that, I would like us, if it's possible, to make a presentation to the governor. I think it would be really important to be able to provide some details to the governor and explain. I mean, he's probably somewhat familiar since he was in the legislature before he became governor. And of course, this is an important issue, but without getting too complicated and talking to too many people and this and that, I think the governor would be the most important person to talk to at this point in time, and that his support could make a big difference in getting an appropriation, as you did get 900,000 for DLNR by having it in your budget that he submitted to the legislature. So I think that would be the most important place to start.
Okay. So 30 days, Dawn, for the next meeting, you folks will have
Yes,
something
we
for
will,
us?
we will work on that. We will work on at least putting together an outline, if not having more detail, and then trying to meet with the governor and the attorney general before then.
Dawn, Amber, let's look at the calendar for the next meeting.
Okay, are we skipping?
No.
Okay. Let's see here. Um, okay, I have the calendar up. So what day are you guys folks looking for?
Well, we have the island meetings too, so you gotta watch those.
Yes, correct. So, well, if we're looking at 30 days from now, um, we're we're out on that week of August 5th through
That's
the
the
9th.
Maui meetings.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're out
Mm.
for that. And that also marks the 1 year anniversary of the Lahaina fires. So,
Yeah, okay.
so
Yeah.
What
maybe
about the
week
week
of the
before?
12th.
Because I'm actually going away. in
What's your
August.
dates of going away?
I'm not sure. I'm good, but my niece's wedding is in
No,
Colorado, August 15th. So
it's the date I was looking at.
week
You're gonna
Yeah,
be gone by the
I'm gonna
15th.
be gone.
Okay.
So that's why I
Um,
said the week before.
What about, Amber, what about the last Friday of, the week that we're gonna be in Maui? What is
The
it?
ninth, the week that we're in Maui, so that would be the 9th.
No, but what about August 2nd? Is
Oh,
that a
yep.
Friday?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, how
Yeah.
about that day?
Unfortunately, I've got my calendars kind of booked for that, at least on Friday.
Okay, August 1, Thursday?
August.
I'm out that week,
1.
if that matters.
What?
I'm
You-
out that week, if that
You're out.
matters.
You are. And then the whole week, the 5 to 9, you folks are out?
We're in Maui.
You're
the-
in Maui the whole
that's
week,
the-
yeah,
The
okay,
week of the fire,
yeah.
anniversary.
Mm.
When are you coming back?
I'm just not sure about my schedule because I'm gonna go to my niece's wedding and then I was gonna go see my uncle and
Kind of
everything. So,
open-ended.
yeah. I could, I guess, appear by Zoom.
August.
Oh. I don't know, she's getting
That's
married
why,
someplace.
we have to,
Yeah,
put it down on our calendars, because our calendars get full
Yes. Well,
as the days pass by.
yeah.
August 12th works for me right now.
What day of the week is that?
That's a Monday.
Monday.
What time are you looking at?
I'm good with August 12th.
Ooh.
Anybody has a bad time on August 12th?
I could do
Well,
it.
might
I've got
have a-
meetings. What, were you looking at morning and the afternoon?
Morning.
Morning would work.
How
How about
early is your
early?
meetings done?
I have a meeting at
We have one at
9:30.
9:30, Dawn.
Pardon?
We have one at 9:30.
9:30. And
So
then I
about,
have
how
one
about
at
8 to
12.
9?
8 to 9.
How about that, Louis?
It works for me.
8 to 9?
Yeah, 8 to 9 would be okay.
Oh, that'll work.
8 to 9 on the 12th. Ryan?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's set it for 8 to 9 on the 12th. The work is on you folks.
Yes. it's
Yep,
on us.
yep. Okay.
So on the 12th, the agenda needs to be posted on the 6th. The 6th, we're gonna be on Maui
Oof.
doing site visits and stuff like that. So we can have it on the 12th. Is the group okay with me posting the agenda on the Friday, August 2nd? If you folks are okay, then at least we'll meet the meeting deadline.
Yeah, that's
And-
fine, I
Fine.
think.
Otherwise, you can post it on Monday, Amber.
That's when we fly to Maui, Chair.
I think August 2 is fine to post that.
I mean, well, it might be a little difficult because I won't be. We can make it work. If anything, I'll just go to the Maui office
Okay.
and post. But there could be just some
No, we're gonna have it on the 12th. We'll find a way to agendize
Okay.
it.
Okay.
So before we close, we didn't cover the letters to Senator Schatz and to DOI Secretary to inquire about assistance in funding for inventory and location of federal agency. We sent that letter, didn't we, Amber?
Correct.
Both letters to Schatz and Holland went out, right, Amber?
Correct. So we sent it out the first week of June.
June.
We also emailed a letter to. We couldn't get Senator Schatz and DOI Secretary Holland direct email. So we sent it to the emails that we did have. Summer confirmed that she did receive our letters and then she did forward it along.
And we did take
then-
hard copies up to DC,
correct.
right?
And correct. And our board secretary confirmed that Senator Schatz did receive a hard copy in person.
Okay. You know, the congressional delegation is just as bewildered as us.
Yeah.
They're just, what? You know, they don't know how to respond to us.
Mm.
They don't know where it's at, you know?
Yeah,
So we asked them for money too.
Yeah.
Not that they're gonna give us, but we asked.
But they have a lot more.
They have
Federal
a lot-
government has a
yeah.
lot more flexibility than the department, than
Yeah.
the state,
yeah,
and a lot more money.
yeah.
Don, do you have anything else, Ryan?
Nope. I'm good. Thank you very much, Chair.
Nothing here, thank you.
Okay,
I have
thank
one,
you.
I have
Oh,
one thing.
Oh,
Which
okay.
was you were gonna talk to the governor about the letters that we did send to the state agencies where we didn't get much of a response. And
Mhm.
you're going to see if we could get his imprimatur on the requirement to respond.
I think Dawn said she was gonna talk to the
I
governor,
Yeah.
think both Don and I,
Yeah.
were going to, it's been busy.
but didn't.
Or have not been.
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
he
I
was
think-
kind of busy with FestPac and with the
Yeah.
budget. And so cabinet wasn't even allowed to put anything on his agenda
Yeah.
during FestPac. So
Yeah.
now that that's over, but we
Yeah.
will brief him on that as well.
Yeah,
And I realize that, you know, OHA does feel like the agencies have not been responsive. Indeed, some have not, but many of them feel like that, I think they believe they've been as responsive.
Mhm.
So we just need to make sure that maybe it's a matter of instructions. But we'll talk to him as we prepare the outline and then some of the issues that have been raised by OHA. So we'll talk to the governor on that.
okay, thank you.
I'll
thank you.
ask Rachel, Don, I'll
Oh.
ask Rachel to set up a meeting for me, you, Ryan, and the governor.
Okay, maybe give us, don't set it up too soon, because we wanna write, give him at least what we're proposing to submit.
Yeah.
And then I think Amber, you sent us the email of what Sherry drafted. Okay, that would be very helpful.
Okay,
Excellent, thank you so
you.
much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
Are we adjourning? Are we adjourning?
Yes, I'm
Oh.
I'm gonna ask for somebody to make a motion to adjourn.
So
So
we're
moved.
gonna defer the other items, correct? On the agenda.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay. Very good.
You guys are making a motion to adjourn. Do we have
Yeah.
anybody that's gonna move?
So moved, Chair.
call for the vote.
Okay,
Aye.
Sherry Brodor,
Aye.
Don Chang,
Aye.
Rick Regalaturi is excused, Ryan Kanaka Ole,
Hi.
Hulu Lindsay,
Yep,
Luis Salaveria.
Yes.
We are adjourned.
thank you, Amber.
Thank you.
Ahoy ho, everybody. Thank you so